We're in the middle of a set of 3 videos that started yesterday with these right here. That's the Indigo Air Force Ones, and they were partnered by the Indigo Blazer Mids, and they're part of a 6 shoe pack with the Indigos yesterday, today's shoe, and I'm not going to tell you how to pronounce it just yet, and then tomorrow's shoes will be the pomegranates. So 2 yesterday, 2 today, 2 tomorrow. Air Force One Blazer yesterday, Air Force One Blazer today, Air Force One and Blazer tomorrow. So all of that wrapped into one. I didn't think it was going to work to do all 6 shoes in one super video, so I thought I'd break it down this way, and there are reasons for doing that. So looking back at yesterday's shoe, you know what I'll do is I'll throw up the thumbnail, because I love to play with the thumbnails when I can crash 2 shoes together and make this kind of hybrid, which was the Air Force One toe and the Blazer ankle, and I'm sure today's thumbnail is equally interesting, but it's great to be able to throw that up so you can see. Basically it was a base white shoe with light blue on it, and then we flip it out to today, maybe the thumbnail, I don't know what I'll put behind me, but it's a base white shoe with what I'm going with pastel pink on this. So that's the major difference in the structure of the shoe and the sort of the colorway itself. But there are some actual little differences that are kind of significant, because they're not as true to yesterday's shoes as I expected them to be. I was expecting yesterday's shoes to be today's shoes, but in pink, and that's not what happened. 2 major changes in the branding is what we'll get into today. So let's get into this and take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One and the Nike Blazer Mid. I'll tell you how to pronounce it later. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel days. My name is Upside all day, and my name is Media Design every single day. From Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today we're looking at this shoe, this pair of shoes, and I wanted to ask you guys the question, how do you eat yours? Which sounds a bit weird if you don't know what I'm talking about. If you're British, you might remember that line, how do you eat yours? Because it was one of my favourite adverts about the Cadbury's cream egg, one of my favourite snacks of all time. Japanese word okashi, I don't know what you'd call that, sweets. And it's just a chocolate egg with like, inside it would have this really, really sweet centre to it. Great. And then in the advert, the commercials that were on TV were all about how do you eat yours. And I wanted to say that about this video's, the name of the shoe, because it could be Catechu or it could be Catecu. And I'm wondering, how do you pronounce it out there? Because I did the research, as I always do every single day, research the videos, find out about the shoes, find out about the name of the shoe, the branding, the differences, the similarities, blah, 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 blah. And with this one, I was like, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm going to research it. You know what my research showed up? About 4 videos that said it was Catechu and 4 videos that said it was Catecu. I've got a feeling in America it's Catechu and in British it's Catecu. I'm going with Catecu. That's how I'm going to pronounce the name of the shoe and the plant that's represented on there. If you have a difference of opinion, or you can actually tell me for sure the different ways to pronounce it or the one way to pronounce it, I'd love to hear about that in the comments down below. With that being said, the Catecu, I'm going to get into that and show you this video, go through all the details on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the most important thing. The most important thing is the 2 differences between today's shoes and yesterday's shoes, because like I said, I was expecting a carbon copy of yesterday's shoes, but with just that difference in the base colorway. Yesterday light blue, today pastel pink, which we do have. But on top of that, there's 2 major differences in the branding. I'm pretty sure it's just 2. It might pop out a 3rd one as we go along. But first things first, let's get into this and I'll show you yesterday's Indigo Air Force One tongues, which was surprising because yesterday's Indigos with the Air Force One, they put that indigo plant on the tongue instead of around the back where the normal branding would go on a shoe. And then if we flip it out to the Blazers from yesterday, you can see that indigo at that sort of heel point where the branding comes. And for today's shoe, they've shifted the Air Force One branding down to the same place as it comes on the yesterday's shoe. So first things first, here's today's Air Force One pastel pink Catecu, and you can see that the plant has been moved down, like I said, to the heel section, so it's off of the tongue now, moved down to the heel section, and then flipping over to the Blazers, it's in exactly the same place as yesterday, and now the same place as the Air Force One. So we've had 4 shoes, the Air Force One Catecu, the Blazer Catechu, and the Blazer Indigo all had the branding on the heel, and then yesterday's Blazer Air Force One Indigo had the branding, the flower, on the tongue. So that's a major change from yesterday's Air Force Ones to today's Air Force Ones. And in place of that plant branding on the tongue, we've got this standard branding on the Air Force One. So that's a major shift between the 2 shoes, moving that branding down to the heel. Now another major shift, if we go over and have a look at yesterday's shoe, now I think I'll do this how will I do this? I want to say the Blazers from yesterday, just so you can see that, with the Nike on one, we're on the heel and we look at the branding on the heel, Nike on one shoe, and on the other shoe you've got the sort of explanation of what the flower is and what the indigos were. And then if we come over to today's Blazers, you can see that, did I say that right? I might have said that wrong. Is the Blazers yesterday, yeah, no, the Blazers yesterday had it on each foot, different branding on each foot, and then yesterday's Indigo Air Force One that you can see now actually had a different kind of branding where you had the Nike branding underneath, and on both shoes you had that explanation of the plant and the background to the plant. So it's the same on both the Air Force Ones yesterday and different on the Blazers yesterday, but then we bring it forward to today's Air Force Ones and you can see here it looks like yesterday's Blazers, where on one shoe you've got the Nike branding on that back pastel pink branding panel, and then on the other shoe you've got the details, the explanation of the shoe, and we flip that out to today's Blazers, again pastel pink, and you can see it matches. So there's something about this pair, this Catechu pair, where they're going for the match effect, whereas yesterday for the Indigo pair they had the flower in a different place and they had the heel branding in a different place. So there's something about that, and then we get to look forward to tomorrow's pomegranate shoes, again Air Force One and Blazers, and we'll see these points, see where the plants are placed on those shoes, and also see what the heel branding looks like. So that's the major differences between the two shoes, and that's probably the most important thing about this video, to be frankly honest with you, because I think that's the most important thing people are going to be wondering about the shoes. What are the differences? Are they the same or not? And that's where the differences end, and as far as I'm concerned the rest is all the same. So we've stayed on the heels, we might as well stay there again and look at the cork styling that appears on the back of both the Air Force Ones and the Blazers down below the branding panel in that strip. And then as we come forward from that, as was the case yesterday, we look in the insole and we see a ridiculous splash of electric green in there, which doesn't match anything to do with the rest of the shoes but still looks absolutely fire. And then forward from that we see the same. Yesterday we had the Air Force One tongues with the plant on it and the Blazers with the cork, and then today we have the regular Air Force One branding on the tongues and still with the Blazers the cork. So only the Blazers so far have the cork branding on the tongues, whereas the Air Force Ones have different branding. We'll see what comes tomorrow. And then down from that, on both pairs of shoes to the bottom of the lacing system, you see what is not unusual in an Air Force One to see a dubray at the bottom there, and a sort of, it looks like a kind of plasticky wood effect, cork effect dubray. But what's interesting is it's still on the Blazers, and we talked about this yesterday, there's a dubray down there too, which is somewhat unusual. And then we get to the front of the shoes, and one of the things to kind of point out, which is the same as yesterday again, is that in the Air Force Ones it's an all leather shoe except for on the midfoot panel where you see the, I think it's mesh, but they're telling us it's canvas, and with the canvas swoosh on top of that. And then we look over to the Blazers and you can see that they're constructed completely of canvas with the canvas swoosh on top, and that'll be interesting to see if the materials stay the same tomorrow. And then the final thing to look at is when you flip them upside down, have a look at the outsoles, and you've got that Blazer with the deep brown cork effect outsole in there that's got the kind of midsole giving you a white frame around the edge, and then over to the Air Force Ones you've got that deep brown, not gum sole. I'm not buying the gum sole people out there. If people are calling these gum soles, it doesn't fit with me. So you've got that deep brown Air Force One outsole, but instead of having that frame around the edge like the Blazers do, the outsole wraps up onto the midfoot and the mid sole of these shoes and kind of finishes it off. So there's the end of this video, looking at those Blazer Mid Catechu and the Air Force One Catechus and comparing them back to yesterday's. And then tomorrow we get to look forward to the pomegranates, and again it'll be exactly the same, a Blazer Mid and an Air Force One, to complete this set of 3 videos and 6 shoes in this pack that I know of. Sometimes what happens when you're doing these videos way before the drop date is that shoes pop up that you weren't expecting to. So there might be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, who knows, different shoes out there with different plants on them. We'll get to see that. One last thing to do just before we flip off is the reason that this is video number 2 is because on the flower you see there it says Fig 2 or Figure 2, as in picture 2. Yesterday's were Fig 1, today's Fig 2, and then tomorrow will be Fig 3, the third in the set. And that's why I decided to structure these videos this way. And speaking of videos, it's time to finish this one up. Thank you guys for checking out the content. All that's left for me to do is wrap this up. Thank you guys out there for checking in, checking by, sticking by the channel, and also just to remind you that thing that I do at the end of every single video, which is remind you that I do this every single day, and that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.